Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson. I send it as Godfrey, the fifth kind of band Juice on the folk rule of Jerusalem. I am the reincarnation of King Alfred the Peaceful, which we know here at the Third Typical English Church of England is Jesus Christ, or the King of Peace. I'm here with another marvelous lecture from my brothers and my sisters, my heirs and my successors, and all those who are entitled to the inheritance that was promised from time immemorial from my ancestors, known as the kings of the Anglo-Saxon burhs descent. All right, it is May 5th, May 4th, 2024, which is the burh year 2974. I greet you in the name of my queen, Sister Galveston from the House of Galveston, as well as Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, as well as all the other members of the Third Typical English Church of England. And without further ado, let's get started with another marvelous lecture. This one is based upon the one I did yesterday. This is going to be a repeat. We had some technical difficulties, and as a result of that, I had to um, uh, delete the video, and which this is a repeat of that actual video. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to actually come from a different perspective, the same content, but a different perspective, so that you can feel it in its totality. Okay? So with that, let's get started. Greetings to all my moderators. If you're here, make sure you ask all the questions. If there's any questions, please place them in the chat, and I'll make sure I get to them as frequently as I can. As quickly as I can, I should say. As you can see in my background, I got the Royal House of Plantagenet. The Royal House of Plantagenet, which was started by Godfrey the fifth kind of Iron Juice on the folk will of Jerusalem. All right. So this is all those who tie themselves to the Royal House of Plantagenet, which represents the crown. A lot of us, we have our family crest. We come to find out our family crest. And, even though you found that, there's a bigger understanding or a bigger picture than you know in regards to that family crest. Because just because you see the surname relative to an individual in that time and era, you must know who that individual is. You just can't just say, well, that's my cousin, that's my family. He could be on the opposing side of the de jure family, because you got the de facto family, you got the de jure family. And your obligation as an heir is to make sure that you'll find your affiliation to the de jure family, which we know here at the Third Typical English Church is the Kings of Wessex, which we know is the Kings of England, and the Kings of France, which we know is the Kings of the Plantagenet crown. And together, they make up the Anglo-Saxon burghs, for a better term, I should say. All right. So I'm going to start with me, being that I'm your king. I'm going to show you that I just didn't associate the name with the time and era, but I also associate the name with the people where the name first originated from, which actually goes back to the Plantagenet crown. Okay. Now I'm just coming to the discovery. Like when I research, I go back and research stuff that I already did research, and I get a fuller picture every time I go and do that. So we shouldn't take things off face value, because if you take it off face value, the value of it would diminish as quickly as you have it. All right. We know that treasures is precious, it's old, it's of ancient what we call antiquity. All right. That's where the treasures are, the history that lie in antiquity. Okay. You must understand that. So let's get started. Let's start with my name, Jefferson. Why is it very important for the surname Jefferson? Okay, because that's my surname. Allow us connection to the surname with the family crest and coats of arms. Let's do that. That's how I first possession of my surname and its link to time immemorial. Now, what's the difference between just saying you're associated with a name and the people who bear this name and you're affiliated with the history concerning people who bear this name? You know, there's a lot to know and a lot of in-depth studies you got to do to qualify these things. Okay. So watch as I go and unfold and manifest the history concerning the name and show how I'm actually affiliated. I actually descend from these people because you are who you say you are. Okay? You're actually who you say you are, but you must be able to prove it. Jefferson history, family crest, and coat of arms. This Jefferson surname, patronymic name. Okay? Very important. The Jefferson surname comes from Norman personal name Godfrey and Godfrey. These names appear in Middle English as Geoffrey and Old French as Geoffroy or Geoffrey. Galfridius and Gulfridus are early forms of the name. These indicate some German first elements derived from either Gala, meaning to sing, or Godwi, which means region or territory. The surname Jefferson also features the patronymic suffix "son," which means to come down. It also other suffixes are "mac," "fitz," and other cognitive terms. All right, that denote to descendancy. But in particular, the patronymic suffix "son," which supersedes all other such suffixes in popularity by the 14th century, was most common in the north of Britain. The suffix was sometimes abbreviated to just "s." The surname Jefferson was first found in Staffordshire, very important, Staffordshire, where the Robert Jefferson was recorded in the assize rolls from 1344. Years later, the family emerged in Yorkshire, where Alice Jefferson was listed in 1485, and later John Jefferson, which was listed as a freeman in York in 1528. So this is the 14th and the 15th century. Then they say Jefferson of Virginia, which includes President Thomas Jefferson, which we talk about being over here and what we call the continent called North America. So the prior names you see associated with the European continent, where Thomas Jefferson, the first president here, is associated with being here in the continent, what we call North America. But we know time never was, we were not. The life of time began, the time again we will be no more. So we have to trace the surname to the origin where the surname was found, whether it was here or whether it was over there. And we know that even if it was over there, we know that if the surname was found there, then we know England controlled territories over here. So the history that concerns there also concerns here. All right. It says the surname Jefferson was first found in Staffordshire. So it's very important we understand history concerning Staffordshire. All right. Very important, which we're doing in a second. So that's one source. House of names, which most of us are associated with. All right. But that's the first name or recording of the name starts in the assize rolls. The assize rolls are what you call the assize courts. All right. The assize courts originated from what we call the Assize Clarendon Act of 1166, which was created by Henry II, which was son of Godfrey, the fifth Calaveran Jew, where the Jefferson surname originated from, a patronymic surname. So once again, the first the surname originated with a person, people, not things or places. All right. The place where the surname was found in Staffordshire, the place where the name is associated with people. All right. And we know people have surnames. Surnames originated in the Middle Ages. So it says the surname was first found in Staffordshire, where it was first recorded on the assize roll. So what is the assize roll? All right. What is this? Have many of the assize rolls? The assize rolls or the assize of court were a court of session that were held all over England and Wales. From 1215, we know 1215 goes into the Magna Carta, all right, which was created and formed by John, all right, until 1972. The Court Act of 1971 led to the assizes being replaced by the Crown Court, which was established by Parliament of the United Kingdom in order to modernize the court system in Britain. So we see the modification of the assize courts by United Kingdom originated from the origin of where the size courts were established. That was back in 1166, established by Henry II, which is called the size courts. Okay. So let's go to the Assize Clarendon Act just to get a little bit more familiarized with the term assize. Because we went through this already, but I know a lot of us have forgotten that. All right, because it's important to solve the equation. All right, to solve the equation of the birthright. That well, I'm actually wanting another cup. The size of Clarendon. My moderators, if it's choppy, please let me know. All right. The size of Clarendon was an act by Henry II of England, son of Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Jew. All right, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. In 1166, that began a transformation of English law and led to what you call by the Sixth Amendment and the Seventh Amendment, a trial by jury. Because we know a trial by jury under the Seventh Amendment is trial as originated by the common law. All right. So we know the Size Clarendon Act was an act passed by Henry II in 1166 to begin the transformation of English law and led to the trial by jury in common law countries worldwide. See, this was the continental movement, a cosmopolitan movement, all right, which were the fusion of government, not a separation of church and state, but a fusion of government, all right? So that means it was a church body of politics or a church social contract. And the church social contract is based upon the people and the government and the trust that the people put in the government, represented by either aggregate corporation or corporation sole. And we know that when you say a corporation sole, that represents the minor. When you say a corporation aggregate, that represents what we call a crown colony. Because the crown is the corporation sole, the colony of the corporation sole, i.e., the crown, is the colony. Okay? Please do not forget that because it's going to be paramount through the ongoing of this lesson. All right? So we see here, the Size of Clarendon Act passed in 1166. This is the 12th century. Processing for deciding the winning party in cases, especially felonies, include trial by ordeal, trial by battle, or trial by compurgation, which is the trial by oath. So that when you go into a courtroom, it's basically a trial by oath, a trial compurgation, all right, by what we call a trial by your peers. 12 people to attest under oath that what you say is true, all right? It says after the size of Clarendon trial by jury developed, though some historians say beginning of the jury system predates this act, the size of Clarendon did not lead to this change immediately. Recourse to trial by compact was not officially rescinded until 1819, though by then it had fallen out of use. So as we can see, the size of Clarendon Act, which was a size court where my name was first recorded by by what they say, what was the name? Let's go back to it. Family Crest and Coast of Arms. Thank you, Queen. Okay. The surname was first found not just in Staffordshire. It said the surname was first found in Staffordshire, key point, where Robert Jefferson was first recorded and the size role in the 14th century. We know that the size roles or the size courts were established in the 12th century. All right, so we got a history of the Jefferson surname from the 12th century and the 14th century, which means from 1215 to 1344, and it even exists before that because Staffordshire goes back to the time of Alfred the Great. Okay, we're gonna prove it. All right, so that means my ancestors who bear the name Jefferson, i.e., Godfrey, i.e., Geoffrey, or Godfrey, are descendants by way of the patronymic suffix called son. Okay, that's just one credibility, one source called the house of name, which the majority of us use. Let's try another one. Thank you, Queen. Select surnames. So we already know that the surname Jefferson was first found in Staffordshire. It also was recorded in what we call the size rules in the 14th century, but we know that the size rule was established in the 12th century, i.e. 1166, by Henry II, son of Godfrey, the fifth Calabrian Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. Okay? Very, very important to understand this history and how I affiliate myself, not just myself, but my family, okay, with the era and the time where the surname originated, because that's very important for your evidence to prove it. All right, to prove it, not in a presumption, but by evidentiary fact. All right, why? Because we're talking about the surname goes back to the size courts, where the courts of law. So I'm not on YouTube just trying to prove what my surname is. I got a court case and docket number right now in the criminal court case in regards to the estate that I said that's ours, that those who bear the surname Jefferson. Because why? I am the king of the Godfrey, i.e. Jefferson, i.e. Whatever name, however you want to spell it, estate that was left intel for us. All right. Somebody got to speak for the rest of the nation. If the rest of the nation went interstate, when it went interstate, that means that they assume y'all dead, right? If the estate, i.e. the land, i.e. the property, is streets to the person or the thing or the corporation who came up by way of what we call eminent domain, because that's another thing we're going to talk about today. Eminent domain acquisition or compulsory purchase power is to take public property, take private property for public use. All right. This is what they've been doing for so long, taking out private property for public use, because they say that the property owners are in here. So it's abandoned under what they call it's called bona vacatia. We're going to talk about these things. All right. So Jefferson's surname. How many other Jeffersons have took this position? And that's including Thomas Jefferson. And including anybody else bearing the surname Jefferson. How many who have stepped up to connect the leaves or the branches that fell from the tree? Who has the right to the branches that fell from the tree? Because in real estate law, that's called a bundle of rights. All right? Does the person who come by and pick the branches and the leaves up, do they have a more right than the tree who bear those leaves and the branches that they broke off from? That's a question you must ask yourself. Jefferson's surname, the meaning. Not a person, not a thing, not a place, but the surname dealing with people. The Jefferson surname meaning Jefferson comes from the son, descendant, heir of Godfrey. Geo means earth, meaning in geography, and Frey means Lord, such as the northern god Freya. All right. A forename meaning a peaceful place. All right. The surname is not that common in England. Jefferson is more common in America, thanks to Thomas Jefferson, the third American president, who was apparently discovered to have what we call the Y chromosome belonging to the hopalong group known as K2. Genetic study shows that this Y hopalong group is extremely rare in Europe and is more likely to have come from Northeast Africa or the Middle East. Did you hear that? We know that Godfrey, the fifth Calabrian Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem, was ruling in the Middle East. Okay? Two unrelated Jeffersons in England were also found to have the same Y hopalong group. This led to the New York Times to speculate that the Jeffersons were Jewish. All right? Check out the timeline. The surname resource on the internet. Thomas Jefferson, the third American president, who separated church and state, right? He was one of the founders of what we call the Republic, which is nothing more in England called a Commonwealth. Same thing, all right? Which is without the king. A Commonwealth is a company or corporation of aggregate people who make up the corporation. Okay? It's called a crown colony. We're going to reveal these things. So we see here on select surnames, a select surname. We ain't talking about all surnames. We just dealing with Jefferson. All right? Jefferson's surname ancestry from England I in quotation suffix in northern England, to America includes African Americans. So that means that England, which is composed of Anglo-Saxon, automatically includes African American, which we are misnomer as Negro, Black, Colored, Ethiopian, ECT. All right. England. The first reference to Jefferson appears to be John Jefferson, otherwise known as John Godfrey, as a signature to the 1258 provisions of Oxford document. However, the Godfrey name was still patronymic. His son was called John, which means son of John. He wasn't really a Godfrey. Why? Because the Godfreys were descendants of Godfrey, the fifth Caliban Jew, son of Folk, a ruler of Jerusalem. Everybody who bears that Godfrey name are not the descendants of Godfrey who went away from the agnatic succession as established by descendants of Godfrey, the fifth Caliban Jew. So it says, however, the Fitz, meaning son of, which means son of John, which was descendant of somebody else, which we'll discuss in a second, was a Godfrey still is a patronymic name. Okay, so we see the first recognition of the name Jefferson, how we spell it, was actually found on the Oxford provisions of Oxford documentation. We also said it was also found in the assize courts. All right, in the 14th century. All right, now we see it here in the 13th century, 1258, and the provision of Oxford. Anybody know what that is? Of course, you don't know, so we're going to talk about it. All right, so we're going to prove that the surname which I bear goes back to the 1258 and what we call the provisions of Oxford. Okay, and then I'm going to prove that in the assize courts, which are your county courts or your shire courts, which we have today, because that's the purpose and intent of why the assize courts were created as a result of what we call the assize, the Clarendon Constitution. Because the Assize Act of Clarendon comes from the Clarendon Constitution. The Assize Act of Clarendon was 1166, which originated from the Clarendon Constitution of 1164, which were all passed by who? Henry II, son of Godfrey, fifth Caliban Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. Okay? Let's go to the provision of Oxford. Where the name was recorded. See who this John Godfrey is. 1 second. Able, I'm doing a lesson. I'll call you back. Okay, provision of Oxford. The provision of Oxford was constitutional reform developed during the Oxford Parliament in 1258 to resolve a dispute between King Henry III of England and his barren knights. Okay? Not King Henry II, who was created to what we call the Assize Clarendon Act, which was the assize for assize courts, which my name appeared. All right? But now we're talking about the provision of Oxford was created after Henry II, which was based off his descendant Henry III, which King John was the grandfather of Henry III, because John signed the Magna Carta, and John was a descendant or a son of John. Henry III was the son of John. John had 3 sons: Henry II, Richard I. Henry II had 3 sons. John had 3 sons: Henry III, Richard I, and who else? Now I'm getting off topic. You know what I'm saying? Well, we know they family. All right, pretty much just saying that they were a family. All right. The provisions of Oxford were constitutional reforms developed during Oxford Parliament of 1258 to resolve a dispute between King Henry II of England and his barons. The reforms were designed to ensure that King adhered to the rule of law and governing according to the advice of his barons. A council of 15 barons were chosen to advise and control the king and supervise his ministers. Parliament was to meet regularly 3 times a year. This was in Westminster Hall. Like the earlier Magna Carta, the provisions of Oxford demonstrated the ability of the barons to press their concerns in opposition to the monarchy. The king ultimately refused to abide by the reforms, sparkling the Second Baron War. The king defeated his opponents, and the royal authority was restored. Okay, this is a result of the royal barons, such as the one where my surname appeared in provision of Oxford document, which his name was called John Fitzgodfrey. All right, John Fitzgodfrey, which was a rebel baron against Henry III, King Henry II, and King Henry III. I mean King John, and King Henry III. All right, because we know the Magna Carta was established by King John. All right, the Magna Carta was reformed many times, had many reforms. All right, but was for the better. Because we see under the provision of Oxford, which was created by Simon de Montfort, which were barons who went against the requisite of Henry III and King John. All right, which they sought out a remedy with Louis IX. But Louis IX apparently was going to go with the Plantagenet kings and Jefferson kings as a result of the Treaty of Paris of 1259, which ended a rivalry going back to what we call the Capitano Plantagenet War. All right, how many Jeffersons know this history? Thank you, Alicia Royal L. Appreciate it. Any questions? Please let me know. I got to remember to look down at my screen. All right, so we know the surname Jefferson in the 13th century, 1258, appeared in the Oxford Parliament rolls, which was a provision created by some royal barons as a result of the earlier Magna Carta that was created by King Henry III, the predecessor, King John. All right. So let's go back and draw some reference there. Okay. This is the Magna Carta. Hold on for a second. Y'all hold that thought. Pull it up. I want y'all to follow along. Okay. This is the Magna Carta we're talking about. We know the Magna Carta was established in 1215. We know John was the son of Henry II, the son of Godfrey the fifth kind of band Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem, where my surname was not only descended down from, but we tracking the record of where the surname was recorded at based off the surname itself. Okay, the name had to come from somewhere. Okay. Thomas Jefferson apparently wasn't living up to what I'm telling you because he didn't even know this, like I'm spitting it. All right, he actually went away from it. His citizenship wasn't based off nationality. It was based off characteristics based upon the color of white, based upon the Naturalization Act of 1790. Okay, which we see in Ahmad versus Ahmad Hassan, which we'll discuss in a second. Hopefully, my screen won't give me any problems. Oh, sorry to hear that, Archbishop. All right. Right here, we have right here. The barons anticipated. Coco. It says the barons anticipated that the king would act in accordance with these charters, subject to the law and moderated by the advice of the nobility. Uncertainty continued in 1227 when he was declared of age and able to rule independently. Henry announced that future charters had to be issued under his own seal, keepers of the seal. All right? This brought into question the validity of the previous charters issued during his minority. And Henry actively threatened to overturn the charter of the forest unless taxes promised in return for it were actually paid. In 1253, Henry confirmed the charter once again in exchange for taxation. All right, we call that under the king free and common soul. Greetings, Brother Tony, from the house of De Vers. My man. Thanks for your defense. I like that, brother. Protector of the king's consciousness. Henry placed a symbolic emphasis on rebuilding royal authority, but his rule was relatively circumscribed by the Magna Carta. Okay? This was our constitution. All right, brothers and sisters, heirs and successors. This is your constitution that predates the Constitution Magna Carta of 1215. It existed before that. Henry generally acted with the term of the charter which prevented the crown, you hear that? The crown from taking extrajudicial actions against the royal barons, including fines and expropriations that had been common under his father John. The charters did not address the sensitive issue of the appointment of royal advisors and distribution of patronage. They lacked any means of enforcement if the king chose to ignore them. The inconsistencies which he applied the charges over the course of his rule, alienated many barons, even those within his own fraction. This is why you have a republic form of government today, everyone. This is the reason why. Let's see. Despite the various charges, the provisions of the royal justice was inconsistent and driven by the needs of immediate politics. Sometimes actions would be taken to address a legitimate baronial complaint. This is called by petition. While on other occasions, the problem would simply be ignored. The royal courts which toured the country, called intendant courts, to provide justices at the local level, i.e., your municipality, typically for the lesser barons and gentry claiming grievances against major lords, has little power, allowing the major barons to dominate the local justice system. Henry's rule became lax and careless, resulting in a reduction in royal authority in the province and ultimately the collapse of his authority in court. Okay, this is all part of what we call the anarchy. Okay, this is all the reason why the Clarendon Constitution was created and the Assize Court was created as a result of the Crusades, going back to the First Crusade to the Ninth Crusade, because we know Louis IX took place in what? The 7th and the 8th and the 9th Crusade, because we know he the one who came to terms by way of the Treaty of Paris in 1259, by way of a conflict that goes back to the 11th century from 1119. I don't want to get the date wrong, but you know the Capitan Plantagenet War was the war between the Capitan, which were Frankish kings and not French kings. All right. So we see in 1258 from the record, a group of barons seized power from Henry in a coup d'etat, citing the need to strictly enforce the Magna Carta and the Charter of the Forest, creating a new baronial-led government to advance reform through the provisions of Oxford. The barons were not military powerful enough to win a decisive victory. Instead, they appealed to who? Louis IX of France in 1263 and 1264 to arbitrate on their proposal reform. The reform barons argued their case based on the Magna Carta, suggesting that it would be unviolable under English law and that the king had broken his term. Let's see what the verdict was. Louis came down firmly in favor of Henry, but the French arbitration failed to achieve peace as the rebellious barons refused to accept the verdict. England slipped back into the Second Baron War, which was won by Henry's son, Lord Edward. Lord Edward I, my man, King Edward I, he passed the statutes he passed what we call Queen of Pretorius. Queen of Pretorius was a law passed by Edward I to son of Henry III to prevent the estate by being sold off. It was passed by way of substitution, but not to be sold by way of what we call fee and simple, which is the way land is conveyed today in fee and simple, which was created by what we call common recovery, was created by these lawyers, which were these baron knights we're talking about now. Okay? Everett also invoked the Magna Carta and advanced his cause, arguing that the reformers had taken matters too far and were themselves acting against the Magna Carta. And the conciliatory gesture, after the barons had been defeated in 1267, Henry issued the Statute of Marlborough, which included a fresh commitment to observe the term of the Magna Carta. You hear that, y'all? Okay. Why is this important? Who is this individual who took place in the provincials of Oxford, which was recorded on the security select surname, dealing with the surname Jefferson? Because I'm not a royal baron, okay? I was a knight because I was on the crusade, and we know that the crusade is when a person goes on a quest, all right? Whether it's for war, whether it's for ministry, whether it's for the church for your territory. That's what the land that you left when you went on your crusade. We, as the people known as Negro Blacks, cousin Ethiopian, were on a crusade. Yes, you call in your Bible what they call it, the Exodus. That's a crusade. All right, you are on the crusade. Now it's time to come home. All right, but where are you going to go home to? Because majority of people who are on crusades result from what we call a migration. We ain't on no migration. All right, we're not on the migration. The migration where makes you a foreigner. We must understand that. For all those who are in this class, tomorrow's today's meeting will be canceled and it will be done tomorrow as a result of I'm doing this class. I was supposed to do the meeting today as a result of what I'm doing today was supposed to be done yesterday, but as a result of the technical difficulties I had in regards to what the computer, I'm gonna have to, like I said, switch the times. So all those who are gonna be privy to tomorrow, you better be watching this lesson. Okay, you better be watching this lesson. Because this determines if you're a royal baron knight, whether you're a baron or a baroness, a knight or a knightess, or if you are those who are not royal, because you will honor your father's house. Okay? And this is the house your father created for your estate, which was protected from time immemorial. Your perception of time immemorial needs to be a little bit more elaborated on in regards to the abstract to the concrete, because we know most of the estates that we have now in the fee simple have abstract titles, which means they are not indefeasible, which means they can be proven to go back to the original owner, because the original owner of the abstract title that you were given to based off the estates and what we call real estate was originally given from the monarch. Now they're given to you from an attorney who act as a stakeholder and lieu what we call the shareholder or the what we call stockholder, which is your corporations. All right, you have to understand what's going on. The Magna Carta, commonly called the Magna Carta or sometimes the Magna Charta, the Great Charter, is a royal charter. Y'all hear that? Of the rights agreed by King John of England at Rudiment near Windsor on the 15th of June in 1215. First drafted by Archbishop of Canterbury, Cardinal Stephen Langton, to make peace between the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of church rights, protections for the baron from illegal imprisonment, access. This is why the Clarendon Constitution and Act of Assize Courts of Clarendon was created. So those who seek remedy under the Roman Catholic Church or the Pope or the Catholic Church couldn't get it, because they were considered what they call a separate church and state. All right. There wasn't a corporation, so there was still an aggregate corporation because it consists of people who do not exist. All right, spooks. The story they gave you was based upon spooks. England's story was not based off spoke. It was based off people who actually existing called themselves lords. All right? They were called lords. Okay, let's go on. It says here, first drafted by Archbishop Canterbury, Cardinal Stephen Langston, to make peace with the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of church rights, protections for the barons from illegal imprisonment, access to swift and impartial justice, that's the Sixth Amendment, i.e. decides the court, i.e. a trial by jury, i.e. under the common law, and limitations on feudal payments to the crown, free and common soakers, to be implemented through a council of 25 barons. These are called your peers, all right? Neither side stood by their commitment, and the charter was annulled by Pope Innocent III, leading to the First Bearing War. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't even showing it. I apologize for that. Let me show that. Let me read that again for y'all. The Magna Carta for the Magna Carta or Magna Carta Libertatum, medieval Latin for the Great Charter of Freedom, commonly called the Magna Carta or sometimes the Magna Charta. Great Charter is a royal charter of rights agreed by King John of England at Rudimere near Windsor on the 15th of June, 1215. First drafted by Archbishop of Canterbury, Cardinal Stephen Langston, to make peace between the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of the church rights. All right, so that means that they're claimed to be immune from the law. That's the reason why, as I stated a second ago, why they created what they call the Sides-Clarendon Act and the Clarendon Constitution. Kevin Newby, I don't understand your question. What is the illumination and North? What is that? All right, why he clarified that. Neither side stood by their commitment, and charges were annulled by Pope Innocent III, leading to the First Bearing War. After John's death, the regency government of his young son Henry III reissued the document 1216, stripping of some of its more radical content and an unsuccessful bid to build political support for their cause. At the end of the war in 1217, it formed part of a peace treaty agreed at Lambeth, where the document required to name the Magna Carta to distinguish it from smaller charters of the forest, which were issued at the same time. Short of funds, Henry reissued the charter again in 1225 in exchange for a grant of new taxes. His son, Edward I, repeated the exercise in 1297, this time confirming it as part of England's statutory law. The charter became a part of the English political life and was typically renewed for each monarch in turn. This is why the United States, America, adopted it. Brother Kevin Newby, we're not Muslims, nor do we practice the Islam you're talking about. So those questions, please refrain from. Is there anything regarding English history or English law? Please refer to that. All right. We see as the charter became a part of English political life, was typically renewed by each monarch in turn. Although as time went by, the fledgling Parliament of England passed new laws and lost some of its practical significance. The common belief is that the Magna Carta was a unique and early charter of human rights. However, historian J.C. Holtz and others claim that the Magna Carta was far from unique, either in content or in form. At the end of the 16th century, there was an upsurge in interest in the Magna Carta. All right, there was an interest in the Magna Carta. Lawyers and historians at the time believed that there was an ancient English constitution going back to the days of the Anglo-Saxons that protected individual English freedoms. They argued that the Norman invasion in 1066, so this is before 1215, y'all. This would be 12 before 1215. The Magna Carta goes back before the Norman invasion of 1066, when the first English king came into rule. Prior to that, all those Anglo-Saxons were not English kings; they were Anglo-Saxon burghs. All right. It says that they argued that the Norman invasion of 1066 had overthrown these rights and that the Magna Carta had been a popular attempt to restore them, making the Charter an essential foundation for the contemporary power of Parliament and leading principles such as the habeas corpus, bring forth the body. Although this historical account was badly flawed, jurists such as Sir Edward Coke used the Magna Carta extensively in the 17th century, arguing against the divine rights of the king. All right, that abstract stuff that King James used for his recognition to be called the King of Great Britain. Not the King of England, because the King of England is the crown, i.e., a corporation soul, which protects intel state, because the intel estate, i.e., crown land, can be separated from the crown because the crown is personified by him. All right? How many of you know this? All right? How many of your teachers know this? How many of your teachers talk like this? None of them. The political myth of the Magna Carta and its protection of ancient personal liberties persisted after the glorious revolution. It never stopped, y'all. It persisted after the glorious revolution of 1688 until well into the 19th century. It influenced the early American colonists and the 13 colonies and the formation of the United States Constitution, which became the supreme law of the land and the new republic of the United States, which, and on the English term, is called a commonwealth. All right? It's called a commonwealth. Let's move forward. So the first reference of the name Jefferson appears on the 1258 provisions of Oxford, known as John Jefferson or John Fitzgodfrey. So who is this John Fitzgodfrey we're talking about? All right. Who is this individual? Does he exist? See. John Fitzgodfrey. John Fitzgodfrey, Lord of Shire and Justiciar of Ireland, was an English nobleman and crown official. John Fitzgodfrey was born in Juffureh, son of Godfrey Fitz-Peter, first Earl of Essex, and Evelyn de Clare, daughter of Roger de Clare, second Earl of Hertford, and his wife Maud of St. Hilaire. So this actual individual did live, okay? And this was reported to be recorded in what we call the provisions of Oxford. All right? So let's go back to the Magna Carta. Let's go back there real quick and see if we see this guy's name as a roll baron. Because I want to make sure my name's descended down from him. I want to be acting in the right capacity, loyal to the king. And if there is no loyalty to the king, because the king ain't there, then it's only fit for me to become king and demand loyalty of the barons as my ancestors did. Okay? So let's go back to what we call the Magna Carta, or the provisions of Oxford. Let's go back there, since that's where the name was first recorded. Provision of Oxford. We're back here again. We want to find out who are these royal baron knights. Who are these rogue? Because knight is a free man. All right? It's a free man. So who are these rogue baron knights who was supposed to be loyal to the king, that we find documented in provisions of Oxford where my surname was descended down from. Okay? Because I'm not a rogue. I know who my ancestor is. That's who I'm representing. That's government. Reforms. The provisions fit in three categories: appointment and control principal ministers, the King's Council, and Parliament. Okay? Anybody see this? Hold on. Do I want to start here? Yes, I want to start right here. Everybody listen. Listen to your king. All right? Listen to your king. The concerning ministers. All right? This is why we're having a meeting tomorrow. Concerning ministers, the offices of justiciar were revived. In the past, the justiciar had been the king's chief ministers and viceroyals whenever he was in Normandy. After the loss of the Angevin Empire, during the reign of King John, however, the office had fallen in disuse. The new justiciar would be an ex officio member of the King's Council and have authority over the judiciary, including the rights to hear appeals from all other courts, whether royal or baronial. He was to hold office for 1 year and was responsible to the King's Council for his conduct. According to the historian George Sells, this was most serious departure from the previous practice, for it was placed at the head of the judiciary, a ministry virtually independent of the king. I.e., this is called your commonwealth. All right, your parliament. Parliament is acting outside of the king. When king was the head of parliament. So that means now you talk about the chancellor, because the chancellor was in charge of a more equitable remedy, and the more equitable remedy would be by petition when the knight had a problem with either a rule or a law set forth by the king. It will be headed by the chancellor, and we know the chancellor is responsible for what we call the king's consciences when the king's not there. How many of y'all know that? How many of y'all know that? The chancellor and treasurer were also limited to 1 year in office, and like the judiciary, were not to take direct orders from the king. Control of world finance was given to the exchequer, all right, so that the king was unable to divert revenues for his own spending. Local offices such as sheriff and excheater, we know what excheater is. Excheater comes in when things are cheap. Were also to be under the annual term limits. Sheriffs were to be chosen from among local knights rather than outside. So we see sheriffs are knights, y'all. It says, what it say? It says sheriffs were to be chosen from among local knights rather than outsiders and paid, so they would not need to take bribes. They're taking bribes now. Why? Because they're working for a corporation. New castellans were to be appointed and given custody of royal castles. The King Council was also to be reformed to more effectively advise and control of the king. The 24 selected 15 councillors, 9 representing the barons, who were to advise the king in all matters. The 15 were who? Simon de Montfort, Richard de Clare, Roger Bigot, John de Plessis, Humphrey de Bohun, William de Forest, Peter of Savoy, and who we have here? John Fitzgodfrey. John Fitzgodfrey. Do you see that? He went and fought. I went away from the cause. He broke the social contract. He broke the social compact. He didn't honor the surname Godfrey. He didn't honor him. His father was called. Let's go see his father. Let's see who his father was. Godfrey Fitzpeter. Let's see. Fitzpeter, first Earl of Essex. Remember that Essex. Essex is a county called a shire. Essex County, Monmouth County, Middlesex County, Bergen County, and another county were the first counties and before the Revolutionary War. All right, first counties of the state of New Jersey. All right, let's talk about them because they were all subject to the colony called New Jersey Colony, which was a crown colony, when the proprietors gave back the land that was given to them through charters from the monarchs, all right, of Great Britain. Godfrey Fitzpeter, Earl of Essex, was a prominent member of the government of England during the reign of Richard III and John. Did y'all hear that? Who were the sons of? Henry II, son of Godfrey, 5th Count of Anjou, son of Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem. So they were members of the government, i.e. Parliament. Did you hear that? He was a member of Parliament. His father was a member of Parliament. You see that word Godfrey? Okay. I see it right there. So it says the surname Jefferson was first found in where, y'all? Staffordshire. We know Shire is the county, right? Shire is the county. We already see that the name is associated with rogue barons. That don't mean that the name went rogue. It's just people carrying the name or supposed to be living up to the name went rogue. Okay? And that's what the majority of the people are doing now, which was started by who? Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who did away with primogeniture, the firstborn. He did away with it. All right? He presented it to the House of Burghs. They abolished entail estates and made it fee simple. All right? Let's look at it. Where my name come from. Talking about the name, y'all. Talking about the name. History. Stafford means ford or staff, landing place. The original settlement was one dry sand and gravel peninsula. You hear that? Dry sand and gravel. Dry sand and gravel that provided a strategic crossing point in the marshy valley of the River Soul, a tributary of the River Trent. There is still a large area of marshland northwest of the town, which is subject to flooding and did so in 1947, 2000, 2007, 2019, and 2023. Stafford is thought to have been found about 700 AD. 700 AD. By a Mercian prince called Berthelen, who legends has it founding a hermitage on a peninsula named Bethany. Until recently, it was thought that it remains of a wooden preaching cross from the time had been found under the remains of St. Berthelen's chapel, next to the later collegiate church of St. Mary in the town center. Recent reappraisal of the evidence shows this is to be a misinterpretation, and it was the tree trunk coffin placed certainly in the first timber chapel around the time of Æthelflæd, founded the burh in 1913. It may have been placed there as a commemoration or veneration for Saint Berthelen. All right. So Æthelflæd founded the first burh. That's a town, y'all. That's a town. A burh or burg was an Anglo-Saxon fortification or fortified settlement, part itself. No, part itself. I think it's still associated with the town. A burg or burg, or I think it's spelled different. A burg or burg was an Anglo-Saxon fortification or fortified settlement. In the 9th century, raids and invasions by Vikings prompted Alfred the Great to develop a network of burhs and roads to use against such attackers. Okay, this goes back into what we call Londonwick and Londinium, which were cities known and spelled today as London. Okay, and we know Londinium, Londonwick is separated by what we call a wall. It's called the London Wall, and we see that Stafford is affiliated with Æthelflæd, who is the daughter of Ealhswith and Alfred the Great. Already a center for delivering grain tributes in early Middle Ages, Stafford was commanded in July 1913 by Æthelflæd, Lady of Mercia, to construct a burh or fort there. This fortification provided an industrial area for centralized production of Roman-style pottery, Stafford Ware, which was supplied to a chain of West Midlands burhs. Æthelflæd and her young brother, King Edward the Elder of Wessex, were trying to complete their father, King Alfred the Great's program of molding England into a single kingdom. So my surname, Jefferson, which originated from Staffordshire, goes back to the time of Alfred the Great's uh, um, daughter, Æthelflæd, the daughter of Ealhswith and Alfred the Great. All right. And her brother, Edward the Elder, who were trying to complete something that was established and started by who? Alfred the Great. All right. It goes on to say that Æthelflæd, a formidable military leader. This is a woman we talking about, y'all. This is a woman, i.e., Knightus Baron. Æthelflæd and her younger brother, King Edward the Elder of Wessex, were trying to complete their father, King Alfred the Great, program of molding England into a single kingdom. Æthelflæd, a formidable military leader and tactician, sought to protect and extend the northern and western frontiers of our overlordship of Mercia against the Danish Vikings by fortifying burhs, including Tamworth and Stafford in 913. And Runcorn on the River Mersey in 915, while Edward the Elder concentrated on the east, wrestling East Anglia and Essex from Dane. There go that county, Essex. Anglo-Saxon women could play powerful roles in society. All right. Æthelflæd's death in 918 effectively ended Mercia's relative independence. Edward the Elder of Wessex took over her forces at Tamworth and accepted submission from all who were living in Mercia. Danish and English in late 918, Ælflæd, Æthelflæd's daughter, was deprived of her authority over Mercia and taken to Wessex. The project of unifying England took another step forward. So you see the line genealogy of the Jefferson surname, which originated from Stafford. And Staffordshire County was called Staffordshire, which is symbolic or in reference to what we call the Stafford knot. How many of y'all know about the Stafford knot? Huh? You ever heard of it? Let's see. It's where your press will come from. This also goes into physics, geometry, I mean. I talked about that in my prior lectures. All right. The Stafford knot, more commonly known as the Staffordshire knot, is a distinctive three-loop knot that is the traditional symbol of the English country of Staffordshire and its county's town, Stafford. It is a particular representation of a simple overhand knot, the most basic knot of all. All right, let's just look at this knot real quick before I move forward. It goes into geometry. Knot theory is two loose ends and overhand knots are joined together which create an additional crossing. This became equivalent to a trefoil knot of mathematical knot theory. I talked about this. And knot theory, a branch of mathematics, the trefoil knot is the simplest example of a not trivial knot. The trefoil can be obtained by joining two loose ends of a common overhand knot, resulting in a knotted loop. As simple as knot, the trefoil is a fundamental to the study of mathematical knot theory. The trefoil knot is named after a three-leaf clover or trefoil. Trefoil. Did you hear that, y'all? Now look at the display. Now this is how they are playing God. Okay? They broke the line genealogy by breaking the trefoil knot. Because the trefoil knot is now created like this. Venus, greetings, Venus Countess. Or what's your, I don't understand. You said no. No what? While we wait for a response, let's click the video of the trefoil knot. Okay? That's how they created the trefoil knot. This has to do with slavery. This is how we were brought into slavery, by they broke our line of communication. All right? This is how we should really look at the trefoil knot without the breakage in the line. Let me see if they got an example here. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Let's see. Trefoil knot is grateful where we was. All right, so as you can see, a trefoil knot. They showed you from a line and interconnecting them. Now I'm gonna show you that is a lie. That's not how it was supposed to be done, because we know we come from unbroken line of succession of ancestry or genealogy, ancestry. All right, genetic ties, a cellular lineage. All right, very important for you to understand that, because they act like we had a beginning and an ending. All right, and they had a direct hand in that creation when they didn't. All right, because from infinity we came, from infinity we should return. I'll prove it to you in a second if I can find this example. Well, you got a hair, what they call it? One of those some hair sponges. Now, that All right. Everybody can see this. Hold on. All right. It's not a line. All right. They said under the Stafford knot, they made it from a line to intertwine it. All right, you don't see a broken line in this loop. I have here what they call what they call one of those hair scrunchies. All right, so I'm gonna make this into, this is symbolic of what the Zohar called cosmogony. All right, the Big Bang. All right, this is antimatter, just space. All right. And then it moves from 0 dimension to 1 dimension. And the only way that can do it is from energy moving from one place to another. This breaks up what we call the vortex, which goes like this. All right. Comes like this, from 1 dimension to 2 dimension. All right. All right. This is called, it's called from antimatter, where we came in, to what we call matter, or special theory of relativity, to general theory of relativity. All right, because this in this entirety represents ether. All right, ether, a spaceless substance. All right, ether is conscious. When you close your eyes, everything is within a cipher. Spaceless substance. What do you call that? It's called dark radiation. All right, dark radiation. All right, so we move to a trefoil knot, or the Staffordshire knot, like this. If I can get it right. Same knot. It's called the Staffordshire knot. Okay, that only came from this. Bam. Okay, so I'm taking you back to the origin of it. King Alfred the Great, which means called wise elf. All right, we know when the elf's going in the tree making cookies. All right, we know a tree represents the family tree. All right, the family tree. They have broken the family tree. How do we connect the family tree? How do we connect it? I'm showing you. Let's continue. Excuse me. So Staffordshire, where my name come from. It was founded by Æthelflæd, the daughter of Alfred the Great. See Staffordshire, you see, press her. When you see the Jefferson surname, you see this flag with the Florida leases in it. Parts up, no, I'm wrong. When you see Jefferson, you see the X with the but when you think about the origin where the name come from, you see this Staffordshire. All right, gone. All right. Let's see. So Staffordshire was founded by Æthelflæd. Æthelflæd established the burh, which means fort. All right. In the Middle Ages, this was a baroness nitus. Okay, a baroness. All right. We see her family. All right, but we know her father was. Let's look at Æthelflæd. 1 second. Let's go back there. I don't like to change my windows. Our women are great. Our mothers are great. Our grandmothers are great. All right. I know y'all looking at them like that's European. All right. They still talking about Europeans. All right. You saying you connect to Europeans? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Jefferson? Is that what you're saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. Let me show you what I'm saying. Æthelflæd, Lady of Mercia, ruled Mercia in the English Midlands from 911 until her death. She was the eldest daughter of Alfred the Great, king of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Wessex, and his wife Elizabeth. Did y'all hear that? His wife Elizabeth. So who's wife? Because you know we come from the seed of the woman. All right. We come from the seed of the woman. We got to give honor to the woman. We got to give honor to the father because that's where the divine seed comes from. So we can move from special theory relativity, i.e. antimatter, into matter through space and time, which we exist now. All right, which we call space time, moving from a three-dimensional into a fourth dimensional under the same time continuum. Well, we're going backwards, now forwards, because in order for you to go forward, you must remember. You must remember. You can't move forward to something you don't remember. You have to be taught it. So we see Alfred the Great, king of the Anglo-Saxon burghs. Not the English, because we didn't have an English, we not here till William the Conqueror, who invaded Anglo-Saxon territory. And he was the king of Wessex with his wife Elizabeth, who was the mother and father of Æthelflæd, the ruler of Mercia, when they were out, not just talking about Kent and Mercia, or dealing with what we call Doom's Law by Alfred the Code, then going back to the Mosaic Code, which he incorporated under the Doom's Law. He instituted and incorporated all that we had based upon the teachings, all right, but qualified it. And I'm making the connection in regards to me saying that I'm heir based upon the descendants going back to just not Godfrey, the fifth caravan Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem, where the Jesus story is associated with, but even back before that, just based off the surname, not coming from the plantation, but going back to origin where the surname originated from, which is Staffordshire or Stafford. Well, Elizabeth with Æthelflæd was the founder of Staffordshire. When you go to Staffordshire, you also talk about Stafford's gold. You ever heard of that? Well, they found gold there. All right. So who is this Æthelflæd we're talking about? The daughter of Alfred the Great, and we know Alfred the Great and all his descendants are who we're saying we're descendants of. So who is Elizabeth? All right. This is for all the women. Look at her, y'all. Look at her. Now tell me your king is lying. How could I take something that was a myth and make it concrete to fit a people that is soon to be extinct? All right, i.e., interstate. All right, meaning that these heirs ain't here no more. They are dead and gone. How was I able to bring you back alive? The only way you can come alive is for the king to come back and take back the land so that you can exist on the land. Because right now, you exist on the land, but not controlling the land. If you don't control the land, you're subject to those who control it, which makes you property. Elizabeth was the wife of King Alfred the Great, which was one of the most powerful noblewomen in early medieval England during the time of Viking invasions. She was the mother of King Edward the Elder, who succeeded King Alfred to the Anglo-Saxon throne. Her father was a Mercian nobleman, Æthelflæd Marcel Edelman of Gani, which is thought to be an old Mercian tribal group. Her mother was Edberg, a member of the Mercian royal family, and her lineage was one of the primary reasons for Alfred's task Elizabeth as his wife. Her legacy persists after her death in the nunnery she found and the estates left to her by Alfred. Yes, Countess. She's a dark-skinned woman, just like they said in this case. Let's go to the case. Ahmad versus Hassan. Do I still got that case up here? This to the court. I done read the thing so many times, I'm tired of reading it. An individual who presents an aberration from the color of skin of the group of which he is a member, such as a light-skinned Chinese or Japanese or dark-skinned Anglo-Saxon, does not thereby acquire a different status under the act from other members of his group. Of course, when an individual applying for citizenship has skin of a different color than is usual for the member of the group from which he claims to come, a strong burden of proof then rests upon him to show that by the usual methods of proving genealogy that he is in fact a member of that group. So you better prove you're a member of the Anglo-Saxon group, because I'm proving I am. A white person can't prove that they're a member of the Anglo-Saxon group because the classification of white person is based upon membership here as a part of the government, which is nothing more than a corporation, and the corporation only associates itself with the color of skin. So that means that you ain't a part of the corporation, you're the property of that corporation. All right? Did y'all see that? Any questions, anyone? Any questions? I'm pretty sure there's none. Okay. So I am who I say I am. My ancestors look just like me. Right? They look just like me. My name was found not just going back to Staffordshire, which was found by Æthelflæd, the daughter of Æthelflæd, who looked as we looking at now. It also was found in the provisions of Oxford, which was recorded of somebody else who didn't live up to the name. Okay, Fitzjohn Godfrey, John Fitz Godfrey, John Fitz, son of John, not son of Godfrey. There's a difference. All right, because it would say Jefferson, son of Geoffrey, because Geoffrey is Godfrey. Son is just a prefix, which is the highest prefix. Okay. So Æthelflæd was the founder of Staffordshire, where my name come from. Okay. Why is this important? That takes us here to who? And of Gloucester. Anne of Gloucester's Countess of Stafford was the eldest daughter and eventually sole heiress of Thomas Woodstock, first Duke of Gloucester, the fifth surviving son of the youngest child of King Edward III. He was the one who created the Orders of the Garter, with all your previous monarchs from the present till going back to Edward III, where members are. All right. So Anne Gloucester, Countess of Stafford, was the eldest daughter, eventually of sole heiress of Thomas Woodstock, the fifth surviving son of the young child, King Edward III. Edward III is sent down from Edward II. Edward II then is down from Edward I. Edward I is sent down from Henry III. Henry III was the brother of John Richard I, who was descended down from Henry II. Henry II was son of Godfrey, the fifth kind of man, Jew, son of folk ruler of Jerusalem. How many of you know it that good? How many? All right. So Anne Gloucester, Countess of Stafford, was the heiress, but who was she married to? She was a Plantagenet. You see that, right? House, Plantagenet. Anne Gloucester, Countess of Stafford, and the house she was a part of was the Plantagenet house. This in the 15th century, y'all. Spouse, Thomas Stafford, third Earl of Stafford. All right? The third Earl of Stafford. Let's check him out. I bet you can't see I'm flipping this. Thomas Stafford, third Earl of Stafford. Thomas Stafford, third Earl of Stafford, was the second son by the single surviving heir of Hugh Stafford, second Earl of Stafford, and Philippa de Beauchamp, daughter of Thomas de Beauchamp, 11th Earl of Warwick. His elder brother, his father heir, Sir Ralph Stafford, was murdered by Richard II, half-brother Earl of Huntingdon, whilst they were campaigning in Scotland. In July 1385, as a result, Thomas became heir of the Earldom of Stafford, and in 1390 he was knighted. He became a baron. He gained delivery of his estate in 1391 and paid homage to the king for them in 20th October that year. He spent his short career campaigning in France along with Duke of Gloucester. All right. So Staffordshire, the third Earl of Staffordshire, apparently didn't become third Earl of Staffordshire because there were Earls of Staffordshire was just before him. So let's go to the first Earl of Staffordshire, Stafford. Ralph Stafford, first Earl of Stafford, second Baron Stafford of Stafford Castle, Madley Castle in Staffordshire, was an English nobleman and a noble soldier during the 100-Year War in France. All right, the 100-Year War in France, and the 100-Year War goes to the wars with the Edward the First and his descendants. All right, so we track Stafford and the Earls of Stafford and marriages of Stafford all the way back to the time of the Plantagenet crown, and married to Anna of Staffordshire. And we know Staffordshire, where my surname Jefferson descended down from, going back to Æthelflæd, the daughter of Æthelflæd and points of King Alfred the Great. All right, when we know Æthelflæd looked just like an Asiatic, points of dark-skinned Anglo-Saxon Berber. All right, Anglo-Saxon Berber. All right, let's go. Let's go a little further. Bear with me, y'all. Bear with me, y'all. Okay, let's move forward. Is it over here? Okay. Bear with me, y'all. No, I don't want that. All right, let's move forward. All right, so as we can see here, well, I'll probably get it here. Me too. We did yesterday. This in closing. Let's see. All right, so we have here New Jersey website. You can go right now on New Jersey website, New Jersey courts. All right, New Jersey courts, because everything we're talking about is based off the Anglo-Saxon burhs, the common law, and everything that goes back to Henry II, son of Godfrey, the fifth Calabrian Jew. We know Godfrey is the surname Jefferson. The prefix son means to send down from Jefferson, which is found Godfrey, which is found in Staffordshire. And Staffordshire was founded by Æthelflæd, which is the daughter of Elder and Alfred the Great, which is the foundation for everything reference to the Anglo-Saxon when they were unification prior to them was living as separate tribes, i.e. Saxons. All right, because when we look at the family question coat of arms as English, it distinguishes them different from Saxon. All right, so we're talking about the common law. All right, the common law of England. Introduction. New Jersey's 1947 Constitution created a court system capable of responding to the needs of New Jersey system and to change of our society. For more than 7 decades, New Jersey Supreme Court gained recognition nationally and among states' highest court for its timely, prudent, and well-conceived innovations of the common law. Now you need to be able to read between the lines. The common law, like other judicial precedents, arises of courts ruling, resolving controversies presented by the courts by people in search of solutions. Individuals and others ordinarily, with the help of lawyers, select the issue to present to a court. An effect of the common law results from judicial decisions resolving those issues case by case. Origination of the common law. Being one of the 13 colonies, we know colonies are crown colonies. All right? Colonies are crown colonies. We must not forget that. Being one of the original colonies, New Jersey has been strongly influenced by English law and the Anglo-Saxon tradition. The three branches of the government enshrined in the United States Constitution and New Jersey Constitution are derived from English history. I mean, they come from it. The king was the executive branch. Now, this is the 1947 Constitution, not the 1844, not the 1776 Constitution, which is the original Constitution. All right, this is the 1947 Constitution, qualifying the origination of what we call the common law, which starts by Henry II. All right, son of Godfrey, fifth kind of man, Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem, where my surname Jefferson is descended down from. So the surname Jefferson, i.e. Godfrey, is associated with Jerusalem because Godfrey's father was Jerusalem, who ruled Jerusalem, going back from the first crusade, and then it ended with the ninth crusade, wherever the first ascended down from. All right, of the plantains in the crown. You didn't have the plantains in the crown until you had folk the fifth to give birth to Godfrey the fifth kind of man to establish the plantains in the crown, which we're saying we are the descendants of. That's why I bear the shield in lieu of the background. Okay? So being one of the original 13 colonies, New Jersey has been strongly influenced by the English law and the Anglo-Saxon tradition. The three branches of government enshrined in the United States Constitution and New Jersey Constitution. So we're talking about United States Constitution and New Jersey's Constitution. All right? So that means nobody else's Constitution is irrelevant, because if it wasn't for New Jersey, you wouldn't have no United States Constitution. All right? You wouldn't have it because it was the New Jersey plan and the what you call Virginia plan, New Jersey plan and Virginia plan, which automatically ended in what we call the Connecticut Compromise. All right? How many of you know this history? The three branches of government enshrined in the United States Constitution and New Jersey Constitution are derived from English history. The king was the executive branch. So where's the king? The parliament, the legislative branch. So where's parliament? And the courts of the judicial branch. Where's the king's bench? It was in the English judiciary that a formal civilized system for resolving disputes and addressing crimes originated among the English-speaking people. You all speak English, don't y'all? It was in the early courts in England that the common law took root and evolved into our current system of courts and judges and juries. They're talking about the assize courts, where my name originated from, based upon the Clarendon Constitution, which was established by Henry II. The common law we know it today dates back to the 12th and 13th century and derived from the reign of who? King Henry II, who appointed judges to resolve disputes among his subjects. There you have it, right there. You can't get no clearer than that. You can't get no clearer than that. All right, let's go a little deeper. Apparently, this ain't convincing enough for y'all. Let's make it more convincing. Only a king would know this. Todd, we keep talking about the crown and what do you say? What do you say? Circle church and chancery. Todd don't have a clue about circle church and chancery at all. None of you have a clue about circle church and chancery. A crown colony. We read it right there. New Jersey was one of the colonies of England. So one of the colonies of England is a crown colony or a royal colony of England. Before it became Great Britain, before it became the United Kingdom, the original one who granted the charter were the kings of England, because King James Charles I, Charles II, William, Queen Anne, King George I, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whoever, all of them were not ruling on the crown of Scotland or the crown of Ireland or the crown of the United Kingdom. They were ruling for the crown of England. All right, even though they were de facto rulers, and the reason why they're de facto rulers because they were ruling under a commonwealth, which you now call a republic, which is the same as a commonwealth. All right, from 1664, what was it? From 1649 to 1660. All right. The Crown Colony or Royal Colony was a colony governed by the England and then Great Britain or the United Kingdom within the English and later the British Empire. Simple. There were usually a governor to represent the crown. Well, why the governor ain't representing the crown? Appointed by the British monarch. Why? Because he's appointed by the British monarch, not the English monarch. So when the British gave it back or surrendered it, they was left to do whatever they want, which was de facto as a baronet, because the baronet worked on behalf of the king. They gave up the king position as a corporation show because no one fit the script. All right. So we see here, there was a usual governor representing the crown appointed by the British monarch on advice of the United Kingdom UK government, with or without the assistance of the local council. In some cases, this council was split into two, an executive council and a legislative council, and the executive council was similar to what we call the privy council at the advice of the monarch. That means king and parliament. All right? I ain't going through all this message. Let's go ahead. History. All right? History. Very simple. Early English colonies were often preparatory colonies, all right, usually established by the administered by a company under a grant, a charter, a deed, what we call a library of a library of an instrument of conveyance. It doesn't say you own it. Early English colonies were often preparatory colonies, usually established as administered by companies under charters granted by the monarch. So if you got a company granted by the state of any state within the United States, that charter is null and void. How I know? I'm gonna prove it to you. All right. The first world colony of Virginia, i.e., the charter given by King James, them when the after 1624, when the Crown of England revoked the royal charter, it had granted to Virginia Company and assumed control of the administration. This is why the proprietors George Cartwright and John Berkeley surrendered it back to the crown in 1702, and there had always been a crown operating under the colonies, which is nothing more than corporation, because we see it in not just the 1947 Constitution, not just the 1844 Constitution, but also the 1776 Constitution, and case law is going to qualify it. All right. So we see all preparatory colonies, English colonies under the crown is a company. A company. This is what you have today. You call it republic, we call it this. Okay. Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was a political structure during the period of 1649 and 1660. So this was even before the Treaty of Union of 1707. All right. Later, along with Ireland and Scotland, were governed as a republic after the end of the Second English Civil War. It started with Oliver Cromwell. All right. And the trial of execution of Charles II. The republic existed was declared through an act declaring England to be a commonwealth. All right. When you say commonwealth is only talking about a commonwealth is a traditional English term for political community founded for the common good. The noun commonwealth means public welfare, generally good or advantage, dated from the 15th century. Originally, a phrase, the commonwealth or the commonwealth, echoed in modern synonym public wealth. It comes from the old meaning of wealth, which is well-being, and is itself a loose translation of the Latin res publica. The term literally means common well-being. In the 17th century, the definition of commonwealth expanded from the original sense of public welfare or commonwealth to mean a state in which supreme power is vested in the people, a republic, a democratic state. All right? A democratic state. Remember that. A democratic state. Remember that term. A republic, a democratic state. All right? You can have that with a king or a group of people. I'd rather put one person responsibility to a bunch of people who you don't know they're working together to hire who actually who the actual culprit is. All right. So I got to go here. I got to go here. Crown land. Crown land, sometimes spelled crown land, also known as royal domain, all right, is a territory area belonging to the monarch who personifies the crown, who incorporates the crown, who incarnates into the crown, is equivalent of a entail estate and passes with the monarchy being inseparable from it. Today it is called Commonwealth Rims. Crown land is considered public land and is apart from the monarch's private estate. Did y'all hear that, y'all? Did you hear that? What's the entail estate? If y'all don't know with that, let's just see. In English common law, fetail or entail, in Scottish called telelage, is a form of trust established by a deed or settlement that restricts the sale of inheritance of an estate and real property and prevents the property from being sold, divided at will, or otherwise alienated by a tenant in possession, and instead causes it to pass automatically by what we call operation of law. This is not happening. Why? Because it's stated as a result of interstate, right? So the trust that's being looked over is a trust that's held in what we call under eminent domain, all right? Under police powers, all right? And we know police powers is when they take private land for public use, all right? Well, you must understand that. Let's go back. Crown land, sometimes spelled crown land, also known as royal domain, is a territory belonging to the minor as he personifies the crown. So what is the crown? I've been this over a million times, but nobody seems to believe me. I don't advise none of y'all to go out and try to do this. You better be a king. And it better not be a king of England, because I got that position. The concept of the crown as a corporation so developed first in the Kingdom of England. I'm holding that position. as a separation of the physical crown and property of the kingdom from the person or personal property of the monarch. It spread through English and later British colonization and is now rooted in the legal lexicon in all 15 Commonwealth realms. There are various dependencies as states. Its free association with them is not to be confused with the physical crown, such as those of the British regalia. All right, not the same. The term is also found in various expressions such as crown land. We just read with that. And crown land is an entail state. All right. So what is the purpose of the crown? Because we know, first of all, let's look what a corporation's soul is. What's a corporation's soul? A corporation soul is a legal entity consisting of a single soul, incorporated office occupied by a single soul, natural person. This structure allows corporations or religious corporations or commonwealth government to pass without interruption from one office holder to the next, giving positions legal continuity with subsequent office holders having identical powers and possession to their predecessors. A corporation soul is one of two types: corporation and the other being corporation aggregate. So which one do you want to be a part of? The aggregate, which you have now under a commonwealth, which you call a republic, or a corporation so under the king, which I am representing now. Okay? Which one? Why? Because what's the purpose of the crown? What's the concept? Right here. The concept of the crown took form under feudal system, though not used this way in all countries that had this system. In England, all rights and privileges were ultimately bestowed by the ruler. Land, for instance, was granted by the crown to lords in exchange for the feudal services, and they in turn granted the land to lesser lords. One exception to this was the common soccage, free and common soccage. Owners of land had a soccage held and subject only to the crown. When such land became ownerless, they are said to extinct, i.e., return to direct ownership of the crown, which we call crown land, which is called entail land, which is personified for the monarch. Bona vacatina is the royal prerogative by which unowned property, primarily unclaimed inheritance, becomes the property of the crown. Okay? You see it. As such, the physical crown and the property belonging to successor monarch is in perpetuity came to be separated from the person of the monarch and his or her private property. After several centuries of the monarchs personally exercising supreme legislative, executive, and judicial power, these functions decreased as parliament, ministries, and courts grew through the 13th century. The term the crown then developed into a means by which to differentiate the monarch's official function from his personal choices and actions. Even in medieval England, there was a doctrine of capacity separating the person of the king from his actions and the capacity of the monarch. Okay? So this ain't no joke, y'all. This ain't no joke. No. The Northeast Canada companies of Canada still operate under the Roman Catholic Church, which is under the authority of what's called the United Kingdom, which got their authority from Great Britain. Totally different. They do not operate the same, Brother DeBurr. We must understand that. They all operate under the Commonwealth England. All right? Canada is a Commonwealth. They don't have a monarch. If the monarch they have is only acting in a what we call what they're called, what's the term for them? We had a term called. They're not de jure, they're de facto officers. Let me explain the difference between de jure and de facto. A sovereign has the ability and authority to govern. The sovereign has the authority and is seen as the hierarchy of a state. All right. We also know that as the hierarchy, he has the ability to create the laws, amend the laws, for those who we oversee, which is called the public, which is the people. All right. And the power of the hierarchy and de facto is the power which means he has a legal right to do so, versus a de facto which has the factual ability to do so. So a factual ability to do something is different from a legal right to do so. All right. So the monarchs of the British Parliament are acting under the factual ability to do so as de facto officers, because they're not sitting in the position of the crown. All right. They're sitting in position and acting under the offices of Parliament, because the crown is in what we call an interregnum right now. That's why it's called a republic. I'm going to show you through the United States, New Jersey's Constitution, what I'm talking about. Okay? Let's see. The 1776 Constitution, Article 22 and 23. Continuation of the common law, oath of affirmation, nullification provisions, and certification. The common law of England, as well as so much of the statute at law as have been heretofore practiced in this colony, why? Because it's a crown colony, shall remain in force until they shall be altered by the future laws of the legislator. Such parts only accepted as are repugnant to the rights and privileges contained in this charter, and that the estimable right to a trial by jury, which was created under the Sides Act of 1166 by way of the Sides Constitution of 1164 by Henry II, because we just read an article from New Jersey courts on the origin of the common law of England, which was established by Henry II, and it was only talking about the 1947 Constitution. We're talking about the 1776 Constitution, which shows that the 1947 Constitution was uniform with the 1776 Constitution, which we're reading now. Okay? Which is said the estimable right to a trial by jury shall remain confirmed as the part of the law of this colony without repeal forever. Why? Let's see why. Provided always, and its true intent and meaning of this Congress, that if a reconciliation between Great Britain was established in 1707, all right? The Commonwealth was established in 1649. So in 1707, Scotland, or the monarchs of Scotland, known as the monarchs of Great Britain, were functioning under the Commonwealth. And when you have a Commonwealth, there's an interregnum, because the demise of the king is not in transformation, which means moving from one office holder to the next office holder. Okay? So it says, provided always in its true intent of Parliament, which we call a Congress, that if a reconciliation between Great Britain and these crown colonies, right? The former will be Great Britain and the latter will be these colonies, should take place, and that the latter, i.e. the colonies, be again taken under the protection and government of the crown. It didn't say Great Britain, it said the crown of Great Britain. The crown of Great Britain is where the monarch is sitting, and there is no interregnum, and there is no Commonwealth. All right? Because all the land under the Commonwealth rim are intel, and intel crown land is personified by the crown. Why? Because under what we call statute of mortmain, it's a dead pledge. You can't separate the property from the church. All right? You cannot do that. Provided always in its true intent and meaning of this Parliament and Congress, because it was the King's Parliament prior to his overthrow in 1776, that if the reconciliation between the Great Britain and these colonies take place, i.e. England, because England monarchs need to be put back there instead of the monarchs that were sitting before when they took over England's monarchs by way of the institution of what we call Great Britain that was established in 1707. They're telling you right now that when Great Britain was established in 1707, which took over the 13 colonies, which now you call the United States of America, that if the colonies come back under the protection of the crown of Great Britain, this charter should be null and void, otherwise remain firm and inviolable. It has, because the king is back. The king is back. You read it in the 1947 Constitution. You read back right here on the website under the common law of New Jersey courts that they know the king is here. It didn't say we're not operating under the king. They say it was founded and rooted in the king. They know that. They know that it should be functioning under this, what we're doing. But they separated church from state to get away from that. All right? That's called the Establishment Clause. Freedom of religion. And the freedom of religion, which you call the Establishment Clause, is actually called the Clarendon Constitution. Did y'all hear me? What you call religious freedom is rooted in the Clarendon Constitution, which was created by Henry II. So if you ain't believing in religion that was established by the Clarendon Constitution, which you call the First Amendment, then whatever religion you believe in is not the right religion. Did y'all hear what I just said? It's not the right religion because it's abstract, because it does not denote to any of the states here on earth. I think this might be the best lesson I did. Let's bring it home. Yes, let's bring it home. If you thought you held a position when we started the Third Temple English Church of England, you're wrong. Because this sets the standard of what I'm talking about now. That was mock trial. All right? That was mock. So if you came to hold an office, as of right now in the Third Temple English Church, you better know this. All right? Because that's what the office requires. All right? And I know none of you right now know this information. So as we got to start from scratch. We start from scratch right now. Because right now, the land is under occupation, which we call eminent domain. And right now, we're looking up to what we call eminent domain, all right, in the United States. Eminent domain is called police powers. Eminent domain or land acquisition, key word, land acquisition. Eminent domain or land acquisition or compulsory purchase, resumption, compulsory acquisition, or expropriation is all of what we call an easement. An easement means a non-possessory use in property that's not yours. All right? That's what the states do. Every state do that. They're using property that's not theirs because it's assumed to be abandoned, so they take it for public use. They can't sell it, but they can take it for public use and make money off it. All right? These terms, which I'm going to refer to land acquisition because I got a case law to go through in closing, is the power to take private property for public use. It does not include the power to take and transfer ownership of private property from one property owner to another property owner without a valid public purpose. This power can be legislatively delegated by the state to municipalities, government subdivisions, or even to private persons or corporations within when they are authorized to exercise the function of public character. It's very important to understand this because watch where I'm going now. In closing, come on, do this to me. Versus. We're talking about right of reversion. Right of reversion is the ability that comes under what we call which is encumbrance for things that are transferred by way of fee simple, because the only one that has the right of reversion or remandment is the actual owner. And Canada does not have the right of reversion or remandment because they're not the actual owner. Let's look up the word reversion. Matter of fact, let's look up easement because it will mention reversion. E-A-S-M-E-N-T. Come on. E. Easement. Now, this is what Canada and every other corporation, because Canada is a corporation. It's not a, it's a crown colony, which makes it a corporation. An easement is a non-possessory right to use or to enter onto real property of another without possessing it. This is called eminent domain. It is best typified in the right of way which one landowner, A, may enjoy over the landowner of B. This is called acquisition of sovereignty, or what we call prescription of sovereignty. An easement is a property right of a type of incorporable property in itself at common law in most jurisdictions. All right, let's look up what we call non possessory use. A non-possessory interest in land in it is a term of the law of property to describe any of the category of rights held by one person to use land that is in the possession of another. Such rights can generally be created in one of two ways, either by an express of agreement contract between the party who owns the land and the party who seeks to own interest in the land. Not equitable interest, but a legal interest, or by order of a court, i.e., eminent domain, police powers. Under the common law, there are five various forms of easements, non-possessory use: easements, profits, restrictive covenants, equitable servitude, and licenses. That goes back into your broker. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Now, reversion. Let's look up reversion. Reversion of estate. Reversion. This is funny. A reversion in property law is the future interest that is retained by the grantor after the conveyance of an estate of a lesser quantum than he has, such as the owner of a fee simple granting in either life estates, fee indeterminable, or what we call fee simple. That's the only way they can transfer it is through fee simple. And if it's fee simple, then it's subject to what we call reversion. Once the lesser estate comes to an end, expiration expires, the property automatically reverts back to the original grantor. Okay? To the original grantor. What is fee simple? Not intel. We know what intel is. In English law, fee simple or fee simple absolute is an estate in land or a form of freehold. That's why you got what you call the term freeholder ownership. A fee is a vested inheritable present possession interest in land, a non-preservatory use of land by way of what we call a deed, which is an instrument of conveyance, not an instrument of ownership and real property held without limit or time, i.e. based upon the encumbrance set upon the instrument of conveyance. All right, and real property held without limit of time. Under common law, whereas the highest possible form of ownership is a fee simple absolute, which is without limitation on land, which is a lie, because we know the highest form of ownership is allodial. Okay, allodial, because if it's intel, the only person who can take it is based upon the tendencies of the actual fee that was given to the landlord or the tenant in chief. All right, you got to know this. Understand, Brother DeVer from the House of DeVer? Let's go to it. We're talking about reversion, and which originates under fee, which is subject to fee simple, subject to reversion under the common law. In English common law, the crown has a radical title or the allodium title based upon the crown jewel regalia. All right. Once again, the crown has a radical title. When you look up radical title is the concept of English common law that refers to the crown underlying title to all land held in overseas plantations and colonies. Did y'all hear that? Did everyone hear that? It grants the crown the power to alienate others from land and to transfer benefits of ownership to the land to itself or to others, but it does not grant benefit. It does not grant. I don't want to go into that because it's going to take me from what I'm talking about. But as you can see, fee simple land is subject to what we call reversion from the crown, because crown owns it through radical titles because the land is allodium, and we know what allodium means: free and clear. All right, free and clear means that so in English common law, the crown has a radical title over allodium of all land in England. Means that if it was the ultimate, meaning that it was the ultimate owner of all land and passed through the eras. Little title is reserved to a government under a civil law structure. So you must be a government to have own land allodial. And we know United States don't own land allodial because the highest form of land ownership in New Jersey or United States is what we call fee simple, which means what? It's subject to reversion. It is subject to reversion. Watch where we go with this. However, the crown can grant ownership in an abstract entity called estates and land, which is usually how it's done, which is what is owned rather than the land it represents. The fee simple estate is also called estate in fee simple or fee simple title, or sometimes simply freehold in England and Wales. From the start of the Norman period, when feudalism was introduced to England, the tenant or holder of the fee could not alienate or sell it from possession of his overlord. However, a tenant could separate a parcel of the land and grant it to a subordinate fee to his own subtenant, a process known as sub-enfeasement or sub-infeudation. The 1290 statutes of Edward I called Queen Imperatoris, which is also part of what we call core warranto, or the so-called abolishes sub-infeudation and instead allows sale of fee simple estates. All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. Let's go to the case law to qualify everything in regards to what's been discussed today. The king is bad. The king is bad. Abbott Beth Israel Cemetery Association of Woodbridge. This is in closing, everyone. This case is surrounding land acquisition, which we just talked about. The ability to take private property for public use, all right? And it was done by what we call a predecessor of a position under what we call the State Highway Authority for the state of New Jersey, which is a corporation, versus Beth Israel Cemetery Association, which was incorporated in the state within the county. Okay, and a motion was put in by the defendants to dismiss the case, which was denied by the Superior Court, and then it was appealed by the Appellate Court, which certified the Superior Court's ruling, which ultimately wound up going to the Supreme Court of New Jersey, which is what we're reading now. Okay, I actually had it highlighted. I don't know what happened to it. Saved on my what we call what you call that OneDrive, but apparently it disappeared. So this is the actual case law. I'm gonna sift through this, all right? So everybody work with me. Plaintiffs, Ranford J. Abbott versus Beth Israel Association. The decision was given by Justice J. Burley. Go ahead, Brother DeVere. You learning, boy. It makes me smile when I hear stuff like this, boy. Like you told the other brother. You concentrate, you're not actually looking at the flip side from the concrete. You're only looking at the flip from the abstract story, as if we actually taking something to use it for our own benefit when that's what they did. So I can tell you're learning, Brother DeVere. I can tell you're learning, brother. And that's the fitting of a knight. All right, just look at it. The opinion of the court was delivered by J. Burley. Okay, and this was case in the New Jersey Supreme Court, 1953. And they're talking about the 1947 Constitution, which the plaintiff is saying that the defendant violated the 1947 Constitution. He used the 1844 Constitution and the 1947 Constitution. They said nothing about the 1776 Constitution in regards to land acquisition, because they know better to say anything about the 1776 Constitution, because they understand the right of aversion of the crown. They understood that. All right? Check this case out. Powerful. The matter alleged in the complaint began chronically in 1947, when the plaintiff predecessor of the State Highway Commissioner of the state of New Jersey authorized acquisition of certain lands, all right, of the defendants for the construction of a newly authorized highway designated as Route 44 Parkway. The authorization for the construction of this parkway was under the legislation passed by law of 1947, whatever that means, 328, effectively June 20th, 1947. So that's the actual statutory legislation that was passed that qualified the ability for the State Highway Commissioner to actually take land through land acquisition from private property for public use. All right. It says that this legislative act provided the State Highway Commissioner shall, as soon as practical, in accordance with the procedure set forth in Article 1, Chapter 7 of Title 27 of the revised statute. So under Chapter 7, Title 27, Section 1 of the New Jersey statute annotated, it gave the State Highway the ability to take private land for public use under what we call land acquisition. Okay? Everybody see that? It says no party to the present suit has asserted that the plaintiff is thereby disqualified to maintain the action, nor that the New Jersey Highway Authority is a necessary party, nor were there any facts adverse or submitted to the court from which interference to that effect might be drawn. So nobody questioned the position of the state, which the officers acting on behalf of the state, because we know that the state is the stakeholder or the shareholder for the highway, which is what we call the stakeholder. All right. Once again, the state of New Jersey is the shareholder or the stockholder for New Jersey Highway Commissioner, which is a stakeholder. All right, which has the right to implead. We know what implead. original complaint is filed, and it asks a third party to come in and raise the issue on behalf of the complaint. All right, that's what we talk about. So nobody even raised the issue about the actual state of New Jersey, which is normally the process. Nobody actually calls the state in on lieu of the state actually being an actual entity. All right. It says New Jersey Statute Intake 2712B-23 provides that the said act should be deemed to provide an additional and alternative method for doing of the things authorized thereby, and should be regarded as a supplemental and additional to the powers conferred by other law. It should not be regarded as a derogation of any power not existing. We assume for the purpose of this appeal without deciding the question, inasmuch as it has been raised either on fact or on law, that the plaintiff's jurisdiction of the highway known as Route 4 Parkway subsists until title is acquired and the route is subsequently formally transferred to the jurisdiction and control of the New Jersey Highway Authority. However, see Rule 4 colon 38-3, formerly Rule 3 colon 25-3. The extent of the land of the defendants required for Route 4 Parkway was stated in the complaint to have been determined to be 28.43 acres and 20.70 acres, of which are claimed by the Defendants Association to be eligible and authorized for cemetery use by virtue of Chapter 227, Law 1941, as qualified New Jersey Statute Annotated 8 3-4.2, and the certificate filed on or about August 10, 1945, with the county clerk of the township of Woodbridge. Okay, so the defendant filed within the county of Woodbridge instrument in regards to the authority they had to be able to take land. Hold that thought. All right, sorry about that. So we see that the defendant filed their certificate of incorporation and the authority they had based upon the statute, as we see 8:3-4.2 in regards to the Chapter 227 of the Public Law 1941. There, so they had the authority to take land for cemetery use versus the plaintiff's argument that they had the authority to take it based off the statutory law that was created by the legislation. All right, under private law, public law. All right, that's the whole issue at hand. The plaintiff and his predecessors in office were unable to acquire the 20.70 acres of the defendant's land by agreement. The complaint herein further avers that in July 1951, the plaintiff instituted a condemnation proceeding, which is a affirmative proceeding, what we call an administrative proceeding, versus a lawful proceeding under a court of law or a lawful court of law under rules revised statute 27.7-22 and 20.11-1 in sequence. The condemnation commissioners were appointed on October 28, 1951, and that the hearing before the commissioners and the time for the filing of their report had been postponed from time to time. The complaint asserted that it's essential that the above outlined controversies as to the constitutionality of the Chapter 227 of the Public Law 1941 and as to the validity of the Defendants Association attempting compliance with the requirements of Chapter 227 Public Law 1941 be finally determined in advance of the hearing before the Condemnation Commissioner, so that the Commissioner may know whether the 20.70 acre in question ought to be valued as ordinary lands or as land authorized eligibility for the cemetery use. So they're trying to find out, was it the defendant's right or the plaintiff's right to use it based upon their filing and authorized statutes and what they're using as their defense, and the question that's before the court. All right. The commissioner lacked lawful jurisdiction to decide these controversies. All right. That's what they're telling you. In regards to the validity, the commissioners don't have that authority based upon the authority as established by the statute. The only authority they had, which is what we're going to read now, is that the statutory functions of the commissioners, as prescribed in revised statute 20.19, is limited to the viewing and examining of the land or other property and making a just and equitable appraisement of the value of the same and an assessment of the amount to be paid by the petitioner for the land or other property and damage aforesaid. They're dealing with conveyance, y'all. Purchase, all right, purchase and conveyance as of the date of the filing of the petition and order thereon. The commissioner equally lacks lawful jurisdiction to decide the validity of an attempt of compliance by the defendants with the requirement of the statute. These questions, because they are beyond the lawful authority and jurisdiction of the commissioner, must therefore be decided independent in a court of law. Everybody heard that? We're talking about land acquisition, all right? Does the state have the right to take land based off 20.70 acres, because they already took the 28.8 acres from them? Now they are questioning the 20.70 acres that was left to be decided by the condemnation commissioner, which the court is saying that they don't have the authority to decide the validity based upon what the statutory law says. This is let up for a court of law, and usually when you're dealing with matters of these measures, it's usually left up to a court of equity, okay? Court of equity. The plaintiff sought judgment declaring that the land and premises of the defendant association comprising of 20.70 acres and described in paragraph 3 of the complaint are neither eligible nor authorized for cemetery use, and that Public Law 1941 227 is unconstitutional special legislation and is null and void and of no effect, contravening the following provisions of New Jersey and federal constitution. Now, we already talked about New Jersey federal constitution going back to 1776. We're not making no reference to that constitution. Why? Let's read it for ourselves. The legislature shall pass no private, local, or special laws granted to any corporation, association, or individual in any exclusive privileges, immunities, or franchise whatsoever. This is qualified by New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 11, and New Jersey Constitution 1947, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 9, Clause 8. All right? B, the legislature shall pass no special or conferring corporate powers under New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 11, and New Jersey Constitution 1947, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 9. C, no general law shall embrace any provision of a private, special, or local character. New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 4, New Jersey Constitution 1947, Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 7. It's right there in front of you, y'all, in this case law. And they're not talking about under the common law, because they don't, under the common law, as established by the Constitution of 1776, the true intentions of the corporations was to reunite with the Crown of Great Britain, which makes the Constitution of 1844 and 1947 null and void. All right? But they ain't going and dealing with that. Why? Because they don't have to. Why? Because they sue what? Out of mind, out of sight. And E, nor shall any state deny to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of law based upon the Constitution of the 14th Amendment. All right? Let's move to the nitty-gritty. So the jurisdiction and subject matter which the court has in regards to hear the matter and the status of the plaintiff's defendants is what I'm not going to read. You can read it on your own. This should deal with the status of the plaintiff. We're not dealing with that. That's the state. Ransford J. Abbott, who was the predecessor for the State Highway Commissioner, where it got their authority from statute versus the defendant, West Israel Association Cemetery, which got their authority based off of filing of certificate of corporation. Not as a body of politics, but just a corporation. Okay, very different. Availability of adequate alternative remedy. All right, whether it's going to be a legal remedy or equitable remedy. This is what we're trying to find out. All right, here we go. All right. The principle calls for a determination whether the plaintiff would be afforded an adequate consideration of the matter of the validity of in the defendant's purported compliance with the local public law or private law or special law of 1941, Section 227, pursuant to New Jersey Statute annotated 8:3-4.2, super, and the condemnation proceeding is binded upon this. All right, let's read it. The power of eminent domain is a high sovereign power that has been allotted to the legislative branch of the government since the Magna Carta. See Blackstone commentary. Blase, blase, blase. It has been held that constitutions do not give, but merely place limitations upon the power of eminent domain, which otherwise will be without limitations. So these are called checks and balances. The proof of the above statement in regards to eminent domain, acquisition of sovereignty, compulsory purchase of land by way of what we call eminent domain power, which is taking private property for public use, through what we call fee simple acquisition, fee simple conveyances. The proof of the above statement may be succinctly demonstrated in Clause 39 of the Magna Carta, provided that no free man shall be deceased unless by lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. This was the apparent common law origin of the placement of the sovereign power of eminent domain and the legislative branch of the government. Blackstone commentary super. There is no doubt that the power remained so ensconced at the time of the American Revolution that this fact is attested by the authorities hereinafter cited. The Constitution of 1776, by its specific term, was a charter for the government of the colony of New Jersey. New Jersey Constitution 1776, to be temporary departure from the government of the Crown of Great Britain. The same stuff they said in the Constitution of New Jersey. See New Jersey Constitution 1776, last paragraph 23 and 22 and 23. It provided that New Jersey Constitution 1776, paragraph 22, that the common law of England, as well as so much as the statute of law has been heretofore practiced in this colony, should remain in force until they should be altered by the future law of the legislature, such parts only accepted as repugnant to the rights and privileges contained in this charter. This clause clearly continues the common law authority of the legislature to retain and exercise the sovereign power of eminent domain. The rights and privileges expressed in the 1776 charter did not dissipate this ancient legislative prerogative. Did you hear that? Prerogative. New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 4, Section 1, Paragraph 1, vested the legislative power in the Senate and in the General Assembly, right? And the common law powers were continued in form and language in New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 5, Article 10, Paragraph 1. The common law and the statute of laws now enforced, now repugnant to this Constitution, should remain in force until they expire by their own limitation or by alter or repeal by the legislature. There is no constitutional restriction placed upon the legislative statute as custodians of the sovereign power of eminent domain. New Jersey Constitution 1947, Article 4, Section 1, Paragraph 1 is identical with New Jersey Constitution 1844, Article 4, Section 1, Paragraph 1. Super New Jersey Constitution 1947, Article 11, Section 1, Paragraph 3 provides inter alia all laws, statutory, and otherwise enforced at the time of this Constitution or any article thereon takes effect shall remain in full force until they expire or superseded, altered, or repealed by the Constitution or otherwise. So in closing, everybody right now can go to the New Jersey court system and pull up the PDF on the common law, and right there, take you to Henry II, son of Godfrey the fifth Count Jew. All right. So before we go, I want to entertain any questions that anyone might have in regards to what was discussed today. All right. So shoot. And are there any questions before we close out? Brother Stoney, or Brother Diverse from the House of Diverse, Sister Venus, Sister Countess Walker, any questions? Brother Kevin, any questions? Sister Alicia from the Royal House of AWL, are there any questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace. I get everyone on the same level, on the same page. So with that, just informing everyone, tomorrow there will be a meeting. You got the it will be the same time as established by notice given by Archbishop and Countess Searcy in regards to the meeting, and all those who are thinking about, who are members and who want to be members of the Third Temple English Church, as well as take a position. This is the invitation that's open for you. Everybody's starting on a clean slate. All right. Right now, there are no positions filled. All right. There are no positions filled. So if you're looking for a position at the Third Temple English Church of England, based upon the reformation that's being done by the members and officers of the Third Temple English Church of England, their major or their more formal officers, then tomorrow is your chance to be a part of that. Okay. It also will be a time for questions and answers as well. All right. So I love you all, and I just want you to take this in your sincerity, full sincerity, and realize that this is not a joke. All right. This is not a joke. All right. We have an actual case. All right. With State of New Jersey, Superior Court of New Jersey. All right. In regards to this matter that we're talking about now. And our estate will be returned. It will be returned. All right. The state is running out of time to have their indictment, okay, in a court of law, which are my courts. There can be no indictment in my courts. All right. So as a result of that, the only remedy we can get is the equitable remedy, and that's an injunction on the state. All right. So take this seriously. If you don't, I won't take you seriously. And with that, we say peace.